The Get Rich Slow Club podcast is a collaboration between Tash from Tash Invest and Ana from Perla. The Get Rich Slow Club acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land we record on. From coast to coast, across land, waters, and communities, we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Any advice is general and does not consider your financial situation, needs, or objectives, so consider whether it's appropriate for you.
Welcome to the Get Rich Slow Club podcast,
where we take you from beginner to confident investor,
where we can teach you everything you need to know about investing.
So come get rich slow with us.
Today we have some fun money dilemmas to chat about, but first we'll do our money wins and losses. What's yours of the week?
You know what we haven't discussed is dividends. And we both got dividends a little while ago, but I think it's just worth talking about why dividends are so great. Obviously through investing, you get an income, and seeing that hit my bank account is like the best dopamine hit in the whole world.
So fun, yeah. I have set a new goal because I'm finding money a little bit, like I said boring online, but people didn't like that. Not boring in the sense of like, it's not boring me too much. I've just found it like less exciting tracking things. So my new goal is to be able to pay for my rent with dividends. So hopefully I've got 240,000-ish invested in shares now, but if I keep growing that to around 500,000, then I should have enough to pay for my rent in dividends, which would be fun.
Which is really rad.
Yeah. So almost halfway there.
Yeah, I've been tracking things like that as well, because I think it's really motivational to actually be like, how close are you to financial independence? What can you cover with your dividends? And sometimes it just starts with as small as like, I can cover a coffee and then it grows from there, which is really great. And it is hard to stay motivated because it's such a long journey. Such a long journey.
Especially when it starts with literally like $1 or like 5 cents.
Yeah.
Someone was like, I can buy half a stock maybe with my dividends.
Yeah.
I feel that too.
Yeah.
So I've still got the random ones where I put like $1,000 in and I'll get like a 10-cent dividend from them maybe.
Yeah. But I completely understand what you're saying about not boring, like not that tracking money sometimes is boring, but like for me being on reduced income because I'm only working part-time, I don't have the money goals that I did when I was working full-time. So it is also very hard for me to feel motivated when I'm not making a huge dent on my own income.
Yeah. And like finances are just boring sometimes. Like when we're looking at goals that are 10 years away, like it is boring to be like, wow, I'm 1% of my way to my goal. Like it's not as exciting as like, oh, I made 10 grand overnight. Because like we're not making 10 grand overnight, but it doesn't have the same excitement sometimes.
Yeah, that's why I think it's really important not to compare yourself to someone else, but to compare yourself from your past. And when we did that episode on looking back at our finances, you know, like we were doing our finances in review.
Yes.
And when I realized, oh my gosh, actually, I'm better off than last year, even though I was on parental leave.
Yeah, I remember you're surprised, like your net worth grew by 8%, did you say? And you were like, oh, I was so surprised at this.
Yeah, it really was because I didn't anticipate that. And that's just because we've set systems in place. I know what I'm spending and what I'm earning and also because I've invested in the past.
Yeah.
And that's growing.
I found getting excited about deals has like helped me like money a bit more because I used to love finding deals and it's kind of slid off a little bit as I've been a bit busy, but I've been getting back on like the Accor membership and Eat Club and stuff like that and tried to get excited about like, oh, I got breakfast for $9. And I find that more exciting than the bigger goals at the moment too. But yeah, trying to make the bigger goals more exciting again as well.
Yeah, I feel like I'm living vicariously through all of your money wins because for me, it's like, where can I get cheeper food for the family? Yeah, I did the grocery store. Boring.
No, it's fun. It's like people love those ones. I get so many messages about your ones as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, kids are so expensive. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah. I feel like I go through phases where I'm obsessed with something and now it's like restaurant deals, but sometimes it's points or sometimes it's like everyday rewards hacks. It like goes through phases of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yay.
Okay, so we're going to discuss some of these money dilemmas. And I don't know about you, but there's nothing better than discussing someone else's money dilemma.
Yes. And you sit back and you're like, this doesn't affect me.
Yeah. And you get to talk about it and what would you do? What anyhow. So let me go over mine because I think this is interesting. Am I the asshole for trying to talk finances with my partner? My fiance and I are having a large disagreement over a financial conversation that came up recently, to which I need some unbiased thoughts. I am currently making top dollar in my field of work in the area we live in, while my partner has just finished school and begun work in a field with a much higher earning potential, starting out at almost exactly the same salary as I am making now. And my partner is prone to expensive tastes, spontaneous vacation planning, and generally wanting to live life through experiences, while I am a bit more conservative. But I don't typically mind splurging on things so that we can do it together, even if I think it would be a better financial move to not go on the trip or buy things and so on. So I finally started making some traction in terms of finances, savings, and I am trying my best to stay out of debt Well, she now has $100K of student loans to deal with. She has expressed that she wants to remain separate financially while keeping a shared account for family expenses, bills, etc., that we both contribute to as a nature of our financial relationship, though throughout the years it's been more or less 50-50. She has also made gracious comments in the past about her earning potential along the lines of being generous. I asked then, in the future, does that mean we are living off my budget, not yours? Does this mean that if you choose to take an expensive vacation that I'm out of my price range, does that mean I am expected to go into debt, stay home, or would you assist in the cost so that we can do whatever the thing is together? She did not like that idea one bit and is now accusing me of being greedy, lazy after her hypothetical money and many other similar claims. I feel this was a quite genuine question to ask, and I am in no way only with her for her earning potential. We've been together for years and she has not made much in the entire time to this point. It really isn't a factor for me, but what is hurtful is I would think this to be a non-issue. Of course, I want my partner with me. Why wouldn't she? She is essentially taking the stance of, I went to school for years for this. I worked extremely hard for this. I am the woman. Why shouldn't you just work harder? And why should I have to pay more than 50%?
Oh, interesting.
So what's the take on this? I feel it was an important conversation to have, but we probably should have tackled it sooner. I grew up in the notion of a household income, although it was my father as the primary earner. It's not uncommon to have a wage inequality in a relationship. I work hard, have a great career, make decent money, and have never had a history of not paying my way. I don't understand why this has caused such a huge divide between us, and I'm very concerned with where this topic is leaving us.
Interesting. That's such a hard one. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I'd love to hear your thoughts because this is so interesting. I think when you don't talk about finances before getting into a relationship or early on in a relationship, it can really impact your relationship.
And it sounds like when they've tried to talk about it, did it say, was it he or she at the start? There was like,
we don't know the gender of the person telling that, but I'm assuming.
So like person A, person B, they and she. It seems like they might have approached the conversation in the wrong way initially, and they might have come across a bit more like an attack to the other partner. Maybe that's why she got a bit upset. Like, we don't know exactly what happened in that conversation, but maybe she felt a bit blindsided and she's like, I've worked really hard and now all of a sudden you're kind of accusing me of all of this stuff. So maybe that's where it's come from. Like, I don't think this person is in the wrong for wanting to have money conversations, but it can be hard if you've never discussed money before to all of a sudden be like, things feel unfair. What are we going to do? When this person's kind of been like, oh, this is how it's been. This is what I want to do.
It's also really hard because if you've always been in a 50% relationship where you're like, we're both putting in half, but now our earning capacity is different. Why should I change that? That is a really difficult conversation to have. And especially because historically, primarily men have been the breadwinners. Mm-hmm. And now women are earning more. I'm in a relationship where that's also the case. So your conversations are different, right? Like in terms of course, women have always wanted to put money aside because they didn't have their own money historically. So now the conversations are changing as a society, in a household. And what's the answer to that?
Yeah, some of my relationships before this one, I had a partner who earned less than me. And I found that if I wanted to do stuff, sometimes I'd have to do it by myself, or sometimes I would have to compromise and fit his budget. And that was a lot different to my relationship now where it's a lot more equal. But I found that very challenging as well because I was very in the mindset of like, I've worked really hard. I've saved really hard. I didn't spend all of my money, so I don't want to just pay for you. And like sometimes I would pay for things if I wanted him to come along. But at the same time, I was like, this is my money though. And I wasn't in like more of a partnership mindset back then. But yeah, that was quite hard to navigate because if you've not saved and you're all of a sudden with someone who's like, well, I can do all these things that you can't do, like that is quite hard as well. And if you think you want to live a certain way and you're living a different way to like accommodate someone else, that can also be challenging. So it's a really hard one to navigate.
And also what your goals are, right? Like if you are a spending person, you want lavish lifestyle, you want to go on trips, it's very different than someone else who might want security or investments or, you know, to save for a home. You know, we don't know these people's situations, but having a conflict in what your values and your goals are can make things even more challenging.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to try and realign that, especially if you are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum and you aren't talking about it. Like I think for this person, like going forward, definitely keep having the conversations, but maybe start smaller if your partner isn't used to you having these conversations. Like sometimes people need to be eased into it a little bit as well. Maybe give them the heads up like, hey, I'd love to start having regular money chats. Next week, can we talk about X? So then your partner has time to prepare it.
Yeah. So unpopular opinion on my end, I feel as though as an individual, you should always have a little bit of your money on the side.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times people are like, if you're in a partnership, you're full in, you're 100% in.
I could ever completely share everything. I would be way too petty, I think. I would be like, no, it's not even. You're spending way more than me, or like I'd always be keeping score. So I think I'd always want my own.
Yeah, I think that is so important, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen to you in the future. You want to have access to money in the case you're in an abusive relationship or in a situation where you need to get out. Like it is absolutely crucial.
Or even just like if something happens to your partner. My dad got stuck overseas during COVID and him and my mum have joint bank accounts for everything. But she was having so much trouble accessing things because he was out of the country. And they were like, well, he's not here. We can't see his ID. He can't sign in person, so you can't access this.
Yeah.
And she was like, but he's alive. You can call him. He's just like coming from a foreign number. But that created so much stress for her because she didn't have anything that was just in her name.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're not like nothing bad was happening to them. It was just like, sorry, you're both on the account. So too bad.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to have your own individual accounts and money on the side. I think in this situation as well, one of the things that I've seen in the evolution of my relationship with my partner is we had separate money and we would just put in money for expenses. So it was 50-50. We were then in a situation where one of us was earning more. So we changed it percentage wise and then we bought a house and a lot is combined. We still have some money aside. We still have investments that are our own individual ones. But that's because we are in a space where we have the same goals. We have the same values. We spend almost the same, you know, like there are things that one of us will spend more or other on, but we're almost aligned. And if you're not aligned in terms of your finances and your goals, that's going to make it really challenging in the future.
Yeah. And it needs to feel fair. Like I have such a thing around things not feeling fair when I feel like I'm working a lot harder than someone. I find that really challenging. Like you're always going to be on slightly different paths as well. Like you're never going to be completely aligned all the time. But yeah, definitely finding a way for you to both feel like things are fair and like talking about it openly.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Good luck to this person.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts? Are they, I don't think it's a problem to want to talk about money. Yeah.
I think it's a problem, but I also think you need to acknowledge that people don't always want to talk about it the same way that you do, which I've always found challenging because I like to talk about money and I'm happy to talk about it. But if someone's not used to that, it can come across a bit more like an attack. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Nice. Mine is kind of on the same line, but a bit more extreme. I loved this one so much though. Am I the asshole for not having a job, living off my investments while my girlfriend works a stressful job? I loved this one.
Oh my gosh.
I, 42 male, and my girlfriend, 36. I used to recently work in the financial sector up until 5 months ago. I got burnt out and COVID happened. I saved up a lot of money over my career, and for the last 5 months, I have been investing. My girlfriend works as a nurse. Every day, she is stressed and gets upset that I'm watching shows on my computer all day. Housework is done by me and her sometimes, so everything that should be done is done. I told my girlfriend that I decided to retire. I'm making enough of my investments, my dividends, that I don't need to work ever again. She was angry and we got into a fight. She said that it's unfair I don't need to work. I told her that's the way that works with investments. I'm not sure what she wants, but why does it matter what I do? She hasn't been talking to me all week. We split bills, FYI equally, and live together. Am I the asshole?
Oh, so hard. What do you do? I mean, that's the dream, right? Like that's why we're here. We would love to live off of our dividends so we don't have to work. But what happens if you get to or your partner gets to and you don't, like vice versa? That's hard.
It's so good going back to that other one we were just talking about because it's like the values not being aligned. It's so interesting when you're trying to live two completely different lives and how you make that work. Like it's hard because I feel for both of them. Like if you've worked really hard and you want to retire, you should be able to. But also if you are working a job as a nurse, which is lower paid than something in the finance sector, and you feel like you're working so hard, especially during COVID, and then you come home and your partner's been watching TV all day. Like I can feel that you
resentment. Yeah.
And it's not like your partner's fault, but it just like highlights the inequality like right there in front of you in your living room.
Oh my gosh, I don't really have an answer to this. Like it feels really, I see it from both sides, right? Like I would be so resentful. Imagine working like such a hard day and you come home and you're like, today sucked. And they're like, yeah, I just watched whatever Netflix show.
Yeah. And like maybe you don't want to be with someone who's at home all day. Like I like to be with someone who is also busy because I like to have separate lives. I think it would be hard if you came home and you were exhausted every day and someone was full of energy wanting to hang out because they'd just been home all day. Like I think that would be hard too.
Yeah.
But also just like, how long have they been together as well? Is she feeling like it's a bit unfair because he's saved all of this stuff and he's not helped her in any way? Like they're still paying rent equally. Like he's not really made her life easier from the sound of things. Like, oh, it's so hard.
And you don't know what kind of backgrounds they come from, right? Like there might be some financial privilege that have allowed someone to get ahead. You know, not saying that investing is easy. It is hard. It takes a lot of time and dedication, but it could also be different socioeconomic backgrounds as well. Where maybe financial literacy wasn't as interwoven in someone's life. And therefore it's like, oh, this feels like so unfair. So you don't know if there's other unfair feelings that are coming out of this.
It also, he said like, I retired. It didn't say like, oh, we had a discussion about me retiring. It just seemed like he retired. Like it's interesting. They might not have been together for very long or they might be on their own separate paths, but it doesn't seem like they've made decisions together and they don't have goals together where it's like, we will both retire in 5 years or like, I'll go part-time and then you can retire in like 5 years. It's just like, I've retired and now she's upset with me.
Yeah, because that's ideally what I would want, right? Like I'd want either my partner and I to both reduce our hours so we can spend time and working on our passion projects or whatever that might be. But that's the other thing. This doesn't sound like, hey, I'm retiring to do a passion project. I just want to like sit around, which again is really difficult. So if your values and if your goals aren't aligned and if you're not seeing this other person in your goals, how does that kind of fit together?
And your whole dynamic would change if he was busy working in finance before, like working long hours or something, and all of a sudden he's around all the time. Like that's a completely different lifestyle as well.
Yeah.
I loved this one so much though, because it's so interesting about like picking the right partner and making sure your goals and values do line up. Because like I've always thought about this with like, when I was first looking into FIRE, I was like, wow, if you're the only person doing this, how do you make a relationship work in the future? Especially if you meet someone 10 years down the line and you're at completely different starting points. How do you just be like, oh, well, I don't really need to work. Sorry.
Yeah.
You can't relate to people as much.
This reminds me of something my cousin told me. She was talking to her partner and she was saying, hey, we've got these two friends. This one gentleman inherited some money from his mom and decided to buy an apartment and is now renting it out as a rental and making money off of it. He's not working anymore because he's doing that full time. They live in a space that is very touristy and he's always at his kids' soccer games and doing all of that stuff. So he doesn't have to work. This other guy got an inheritance from his father, started a business and is just lugging along, like working every single day, like working really hard, trying to get financially ahead. And they were saying, which situation would you rather be in? And she's like, I would absolutely love to be in a situation where I have passive income and I can spend time with my family. And her partner is like, he's so lazy. He doesn't do anything. He's not working hard. I would rather be in this situation because that guy's working hard and is showing his worth and his value. And it was just at that moment that my cousin was like, oh my gosh, our values are different.
So different.
Our values are different. You value hardworking, not being lazy, making something of yourself. And that's very valuable, right? Like those are important traits. But what are you willing to give up? Whereas this person is now more so in his kid's life.
They're hardworking in a different way. He's a hardworking, like all parents are hardworking, but he's just like choosing to spend his time in a different place.
Yeah, interesting.
Oh, that's so interesting. We need like a relationship, kind of like money relationship values quiz that people can discuss together, like these dilemmas. Like, how would you feel about this?
Yeah.
But I think this goes back to our other one as well. Like definitely worth having conversations earlier on and don't spring retirement on your partner, especially if you want to be with them long term. Like I think that should be a joint decision, especially if like, I don't know, like not everyone wants to live the life they live now. Like if someone's retired and they're like, I'm happy just staying the same. But some people might be like, oh, I want to buy a bigger house. I want to have a family.
Yeah.
Like she might have been like, oh, we're not planning on starting families together. I don't know. Like there's all these considerations that have been missed as well.
For sure.
Oh, I loved it though. So juicy.
Yeah.
Good luck to these people.
Oh. All right. Here's another one. Am I the asshole for not paying my cousin back?
Ooh.
Recently, I hung out with my cousin and they mentioned that a certain artist announced upcoming tour dates. We are both fans of this artist and I said that I'd be excited to go with my cousin for a show. We didn't really plan it out because, I'm down to go is basically what I said. And I got a text from my cousin the next day saying, hey, I bought us tickets for the show and the prices are X amount. So Apple pay me when you can, no rush. And immediately I thought, why would I pay you back for something that I didn't ask you to buy? And my cousin replied, you said you wanted to go, so I bought the tickets so we can go. What's the problem? And then I told him I'm not paying him back for this ticket because 1, I didn't ask them to buy the ticket. And number 2, they didn't tell me they were going to buy both of us tickets. And number 3, I think it's just the principle of things for me to not pay them back for a sort of gift. Personally, I am not the type of person who expects friends and family to pay me back when I spend money on them unless it's agreed upon to do so. Let me know if you think I'm an asshole.
Oh, a few parts to this. If you didn't actually want to go and someone bought you a ticket, I'd be like, I didn't really want to go. But if it's more of a principle thing because you think friends should gift you stuff, I think that's a different story.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers here.
Yes. I think firstly, whenever I buy something for someone, either it's a gift or I will double check. If like someone said, oh, that'd be cool, I'm always like, okay, this is the time, this is the date, this is the exact cost to the cent amount. Are you still keen? Like that's what I usually do. So I understand being like, oh, we were just chatting. Cause like we're always interested in lots of different things. It doesn't mean we're keen to go. Like I'm always like, yeah, Bali sounds fun, but I don't actually mean like book me a flight to Bali.
Well, I just did. Tash, is it okay that I booked you a ticket?
Amazing.
You have to Apple pay me back.
No, because like, yeah, especially if I would be annoyed at this because I find there's always a cheap way to get something. So if someone got me something full price, I'd be like, oh, we didn't use my discount or anything or something like that, which is just me personally. But if it's, I don't know, if it's just something small, like is it worth creating a problem over? I think
but is it small? That's the question. Like concert tickets can be really expensive.
Yeah,
they
true.
can be a couple $100s depending on what seats you got. So just casually being like, yeah, it'd be rad to go see this. You know what I mean?
This kind of happened to one of my friends. She was keen to go to one of the concerts that was here recently. Was it Taylor Swift maybe? And her sister bought her the like VIP. Oh, was it Coldplay? One of the ones that came recently. And she was like, oh, cool, I want the cheaper like $200 tickets. But her sister bought her the VIP $800 ticket.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she ended up paying for it because like she didn't want to cause problems. But it was still that bit of resentment of like, oh, I was keen for like the cheaper one because I'm on a budget now. But her sister was like, oh, well, these are the ones that I got.
Yeah, that's a hard thing. So this is, I don't know. There's so many layers to this one because it depends on where you are financially, right? If you have goals and things that you're working towards, but having someone buy you something that's outside of your price range makes it really challenging.
And
right?
like maybe you didn't actually want to go. Like we can always interpret what people say a little bit differently. If someone was like, oh, that sounds cool. Like maybe they weren't actually like, yes, let's go on this date.
Yeah. I have a friend and I love this idea. When they want to go to something, they buy 2 tickets and they're like, this is going to be a gift for whoever because I want to go to this and I don't want to go by myself. But you might not financially be able to afford that. You might not be able to buy 2 tickets, right? So you do need someone to pay for that second ticket. And then what do you do in this situation? So I feel like if I was this person, I would either be like, sorry, not interested. Can you sell my ticket?
Or I'll sell it for you.
Or I'll sell it for you. Yeah. Or you suck it up and you pay for it because there was obviously misunderstanding. But if it comes down to your values, where your values are like, if someone buys me a gift, they shouldn't expect me to reciprocate, like pay them back. The question is, was that a gift? I don't interpret that as a gift.
No, I didn't interpret it as a gift either. Oh, it's so hard. Yeah, but I think it's, either just kind of suck it up a bit and then maybe have a conversation and be like, hey, next time, can you like double check before you book the ticket? Also acknowledge that not everyone sees gifting the same way as you as well. Like I sometimes give people things now, but back a few years ago, I was like, you owe me $4.70 in my brain. Like my brain would like keep track of that kind of stuff. So like, it depends on where your friend or your cousin is coming from. But I also think if you have the money and you did want to go and you like did maybe sound a bit too positive about the concert, maybe just be like, cool, I did sound positive. This is going to be fun. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
You don't get too caught up on the principles when it comes to relationships as well.
You just don't want to harm some of your relationships, right? Sometimes it's just $100. Not worth it, but hard one.
Yes. Well, I think all of these just come back to like talk about money more.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to text someone and be like, hey, do you want to come to this thing? Like just remind your cousin of like, hey, maybe next time, just ask again.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Am I the asshole for not paying my friend for broken sunglasses? My friend left sunglasses in my car. I did not know he did this until he called me a few days later. I told him I would look for the sunglasses. I couldn't find them in the front seat or on the floor, so I looked in the back. When I was kneeling down and checking under seats, I heard something crunch and crack. Turns out I crushed the sunglasses. Here is where I did give a little white lie. I told my friend that I found them crushed under the seat, not that I accidentally crushed them. I apologized and said I wish I knew they were in the car. So he first asked if I was going to buy him new ones. They were nicer sunglasses, like well over $100. I don't have that money on me right now to spend on that. He then said it would be fair if we split the cost 50-50. I still refused. I said I didn't know the sunglasses were in the car and he left them there. So it's really not my fault. And it's not like I was knowingly negligent. Am I the asshole?
Oh, these are always so good. No, yeah.
No, definitely not for this one.
No. I just love the dynamics, right? Like the dynamics of how we interpret situations. You know what I mean? Like that's so interesting. But no, I mean, someone forgot their thing. Like those sunglasses could have been gone anywhere.
Like if you left them on the bus
Yeah.
and they're broken, you're not going to be like, hey, Transperth or wherever we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you call the Victoria trains or whatever? The Mikey people.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, the transport people.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. Like that.
Yara trams.
Yeah. I'm not paying for your sunglasses. Yeah. Like most of the time you lose stuff and it's gone. And also if you were the friend doing someone a favor by driving them around in your car and you've kind of like already down on petrol money or whatever it is, like, no.
That's another one that no one thinks about, like how much gas costs, right? Like I got a free ride. Like you don't think that your friend just spent time, drove you somewhere. And
especially like back in Perth because things are so far away and most people drive because like public transport is not the greatest there. Like everyone's too far away. Like if you're driving out of your way to pick someone up because it's not, people normally aren't like on the way. It's like usually 20-minute detour. That really adds up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, nah.
Do you think the friend should pay it all?
No, I don't. And it's one of those white lies. Like I'm not a liar at all and I don't usually lie, but I find it interesting that that's like part of the post. Like, oh, I kind of lied. I did crush them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I might have just been like, no, I wouldn't actually lie, but I would almost, after this conversation that happened to me, I'd almost be like, well, fine, I just won't tell you next time. I'll just be like, no, sorry, they're not there. You probably left them somewhere else.
Would you actually say that to the person?
If they, not now.
But you would say it in your head to yourself.
Yeah, or like maybe if this had happened, then like in the future you'll be like, well, it's even worth telling them I crushed them. Like, are we going to lose a friend over a pair of sunglasses?
Yeah.
I've lost a friend over her leaving something in my car.
Oh, did you? What happened?
She left a key or something in my car. And then I was at work doing one of those overnight shifts years ago. And she was really mad at me because I wasn't going to look for it straight away. And then I couldn't find it because my car was quite messy back then. And she told me I was being very disrespectful. And I was like, no, sorry, I'm not like taking this conversation right now because I'm at work. Like you'll have to wait a few more days until I'm done. But she was so angry at me and then she blocked me on everything.
What was it like a key to her house and it was the only one or something like that?
No, it was a key to something else she hadn't been to in years. And she probably shouldn't have even had the key anymore.
Because I would understand her frustration if she's like, this is the only key to my house. Can you please help me out? Like I'm locked out of my house and stuff.
It was like a kind of drama thing to a key she probably shouldn't have even had, which is why I think she left it in my car.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was kind of me just standing up because like she didn't need this key at all. And like she probably shouldn't have left it in my car in the first place. And she wouldn't have come to get it because we were like an hour away from each other. And you can't like just rock up to a client's house either when you're at a sleep shift like that. Like you can't give away addresses like that. But the other way she was just like getting so angry at me. And I was like, I'm literally at work. Like I can't have an argument about you with this key that you don't even need.
I wonder how many relationships have been broken? How many friendships have ended because of money?
Yeah, so
lots.
So many.
I mean, I've told you one before about just talking about owning a rental property that I kind of lost a friend over that as well.
Yeah.
And because they were like, oh, you're talking about owning property and what you should charge for rent. And meanwhile, I can like barely afford rent and ended up essentially blocking me and not responding either.
Yeah, it's so hard because it's not like your fault completely in that moment. It's like everything else going on and then you're kind of like the target for it in the end, I feel sometimes. Where it's like, oh, our values don't align. I just can't like be angry at you anymore. Let's move on.
Yeah, it's hard. Those things are really hard because it's like everything else might be aligned, but it's just this almost inequality that kind of happens in a way.
Yeah, like the unfairness.
Yeah, the unfairness, exactly. Yeah. And a lot of money is unfair. It really just is, unfortunately.
And it's hard when you're not looking at the situation like as it is, when you're like, oh, but I sometimes get this on social media, sometimes in real life where it's like, oh, but you can pay for it because your parents can pay for it.
But that doesn't, like, but you aren't your parents.
Yeah. Like
you aren't your parents.
Just give me money. My parents are very like mindful of their money. They're like more frugal than I am some of the times. Like it's not the same thing, but some of those beliefs that some people have in their minds where it's like, oh, well, like you can afford it.
Well, I used to think this quite a bit when I was younger, when I had older friends who had owned a house or who owned a house that had kids. And I was like, well, they have more money than me. They have more net worth. They own a house. Like surely they can afford XYZ or whatever it might be. And now that I'm in this situation, I am much more cash poor than I was when I didn't own a house or didn't have kids because I had much more disposable income. So essentially I had better cash flow at that time because I just had less expenses. And now having a house, having a high mortgage, having, childcare costs and kids, I have less disposable income that I can spend on stuff. So I've kind of shattered that myth now being in this situation because before it's like, yeah, sure, your net worth might be higher because you own property, but that doesn't mean that you have more money to spend on stuff.
I think it's really important to be mindful of when we get annoyed at someone and we feel ourselves getting annoyed to be like, where is this coming from? Like what assumptions are we making at this moment? Like why, especially with this story, like why do we think our friend should pay for our sunglasses when we've left them in the car and we've lost them? Like
What kind of belief is that? Like, what is your belief coming from?
Is it because you think your friend has more money? Like, was your friend driving around because they have a car and you don't? Are you a bit annoyed about that? Are you financially like strapped right now where you can't afford to buy new sunglasses, and so you're like desperate at any situation to be able to get a little bit of financial support, right? Or do you feel like your friend owes you money for something else, and this is just like, well, I've bought them lunch heaps of times and now they've gone and broken my sunglasses. Like there's all these other things going on, but like think about where it's coming from before you get annoyed at someone. And think about like, are those assumptions true? Am I just assuming things that aren't true? Because like maybe you think someone's well off and they're actually not.
I think at the end of the day, with all of these examples, it really comes down to communication, checking in with yourself, checking in with your values, and understanding where you're coming from and where the other person is coming from too.
Yeah. And it's hard to step back and be like, why am I feeling like this?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes things feel unfair and they're maybe not actually that unfair because you've forgotten other things that have happened around. And you're like, I'm only seeing my blinkers are on, I'm seeing this situation, but I'm not thinking of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So hard.
Oh, life is so
I loved
good.
these.
Yeah. Awesome.
Let us know if you loved these kind of chats, because I had so much fun looking for these stories, and there's so many good dilemmas I think we could chat about.
And if you've ever lost a friend over a financial conversation, I would love to know that.
And if you have like one of these stories, can you send it to us as well? Like I might make a form I'll try and remember to make a form or something, but you can message us too on the Get Rich Slow Club Instagram, but just like send us your Am I the Asshole Money Dilemma stories, because like I really like these.
Yes, love it.
Yay, bye.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you found this episode helpful, please rate us 5 stars, write a review, or share with a friend. If you're new to investing, make sure to listen to our first 10 episodes. Follow us at Get Rich Slow Club or Tash at Tash Invest, or me at Ana Cristina.
This show was brought to you by Natasha Etchman, who is an authorized representative 1299881 of Guideway Financial Services, AFSL 420367, and Perla, who is an authorized representative 1281540 of Sanlam Private Wealth, AFSL 337927. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to investing. So make sure you check out our financial services guides and read the product disclosure statement and target market determination for any investments you're considering. See our show notes for more info.